Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Julie Grant. We are in Idaho this morning as new court documents continue to be unsealed and continue shedding light onto what really happened to Kaylee Gonzalves, Madison Mogan, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin. Moscow police releasing hundreds of documents within hours of the defendant being sentenced to life in prison for those murders. The documents describe the efforts that law enforcement put in to follow every piece of evidence which led back to this man. Still unclear, though, what motivated the killings.
You said earlier you couldn't identify a reason the house was targeted. Do you have a motive?
We don't.
And I would add that going through this whole investigation, I'd probably say it's easier than it was for Bill's offices. We were focused on a task. We had a task to do, and it was discovering evidence and interviewing folks and that sort of thing. So the motive necessarily doesn't play a part in that, right? Obviously it can, but we were just focused on getting the job done in the correct way as best we could.
Now, we know that Dylan Mortenson was the first person to tell police about a man she saw wearing a black ski mask leaving the house during the early morning hours after the homicides had occurred. Now, Dylan said that she locked herself in her bedroom and continued to hear commotion. She said eventually she stopped hearing a struggle and heard a male voice say, "You're going to be fine. I'm going to help you." Dylan said she did not recognize the male's voice. She said after a few minutes, she peeked out of her bedroom and observed a male described as approximately 6 feet tall, slim build, with a black ski mask leave the second floor patio area. The patio door was likely left open as it was found open upon the officer's arrival. Now, we heard Dylan speak at the killer's sentencing. Let's listen.
What happened that night changed everything. Because of him, four beautiful, genuine, compassionate people were taken from this world for no reason. He didn't just take their lives. He took the light they carried into every room. He took away how they made everyone feel safe, loved, and full of joy. He took away the ability for me to tell them that I love them and that I'm so proud of them. He took away who they were becoming and the futures they were going to have. He took away birthdays, graduations, celebrations, and all the memories that we were supposed to make. All of it is gone. And all the people who loved them are just left to carry that weight forever. He didn't just take them from the world. He took them from me, my friends, my people who felt like my home, the people I looked up to and adored more than anyone. He took away my ability to trust the world around me. What he did shattered me in places I didn't know could break. I was barely 19 when he did this. We had just celebrated my birthday at the end of September. I should have been figuring out who I was. I should have been having the college experience and starting to establish my future. Instead, I was forced to learn how to survive the unimaginable. I couldn't be alone. I had to sleep in my mom's bed because I was too terrified to close my eyes. Terrified that if I blinked, someone might be there. I made escape plans everywhere I went. If something happens, how do I get out? What can I use to defend myself? Who can help? Then there are the panic attacks. The kind that slam into me like a tsunami out of nowhere. I can't breathe. I can't think. I can't stop shaking. All I can do is scream because the emotional pain and the grief is too much to handle. My chest feels like it's caving in. Sometimes I drop to the floor with my heart racing, convinced something is very wrong. It's far beyond anxiety. It's my body reliving everything over and over again. My nervous system never got the message that it is over, and it won't let me forget what he did to them. People call me strong. They say I'm a survivor, but they don't see what my new reality looks like. They don't see the panic attacks, the hypervigilance, the exhaustion, the way I scan every room I enter, the way I flinch at sudden sounds. They don't know how heavy it is to carry so much pain and still be expected to keep going, and that's because of him. He stole parts of me I may never get back. He took the version of me who didn't constantly ask, what if it happens again? What if next time I don't survive?
Oh my goodness, it's so heartbreaking watching these impact statements again. That was Dylan Mortenson, one of the surviving housemates. We'll hit a break and listen to some of what the judge said to Bryan Kohberger after this. Welcome back to Court TV Live. I want to show you the judge speaking before imposing the sentence upon Bryan Kohberger.
In my view, the time has now come to end Mr. Kohberger's 15 minutes of fame. It's time that he be consigned to the ignominy and isolation of perpetual incarceration. I know there has been concern about him collaborating on books or movies or other media projects, and I truly hope that someone does not stoop to affording him this spotlight that he desires in the name of clicks, royalties, or profits. While criminal behavioralists should study him away from the spotlight in an attempt to prevent other would-be killers from acting on their worst impulses, there should be no need for that to spill over into the public eye. The great Idaho jurist Edward Lodge was known for trying to find something positive about every person he ever sentenced. And with over a half a century as a trial judge, that was a lot of people. This was often challenging, and I recall in one case he said that the best he could come up with was the defendant had good penmanship. Truth be told, I'm unable to come up with anything redeeming about Mr. Kohberger because his grotesque acts of evil have buried and hidden anything that might have been good or intrinsically human about him. His actions have made him the worst of the worst. Even in pleading guilty, he is giving nothing hinting of remorse or redemption, nothing suggesting even a recognition or understanding, let alone regret for the pain that he has caused. And therefore, I will not attempt to speak about him further, other than to simply sentence him so that he is forever removed from civilized society. And accordingly, based upon his conduct and based upon the record before this court, recognizing the standards that govern this court's sentencing decisions as set forth in State v. Toohill, I hereby sentence Mr. Kohberger as follows. On count 1, burglary, 10 years fixed, 0 years indeterminate. I also impose a fine of $50,000. Count 2, first-degree murder of Madison Mogan. I sentence the defendant to a fixed term of life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, a fine of $50,000, and a civil penalty of $5,000 payable to the family of the victim. On count 3, for first-degree murder of Kaylee Gonzalves, I sentence the defendant to a fixed term of life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, a fine of $50,000, and a civil penalty of $5,000 payable to the victim of the family, or to the family of the victim, pardon me. On count 4, for the first-degree murder of Xana Kernodle, I sentence the defendant to a fixed term of life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, a fine of $50,000, and a civil penalty of $5,000 payable to the family of the victim. On count 5, for the first-degree murder of Ethan Chapin, I sentence the defendant to a fixed term of life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, a fine of $50,000, and a civil penalty of $5,000 payable to the family of the victim. The sentences on counts 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 shall run consecutively to one another.
Very well thought out statement by the judge in this very high profile case. Now we know Bryan Kohberger has been sentenced to spend the rest of his life without the possibility of parole in one of the worst prisons in America. And we've gotten an idea about what kind of a prisoner he is already during an interview with Moscow police. Another inmate apparently called in, oh, I'm sorry, this is different information that I was expecting to see here. What is this? Kohberger gave, I'm sorry, I'm not sure what this is. I was expecting to see something else. What I was expecting to see here was an inmate saying how weird Bryan Kohberger has been in the prison, that he washes his hands incessantly, that he spends way too long, at least 45-minute long showers, 45 minutes, and that he doesn't sleep all night, that he stays up all night and makes noise and then naps during the day. Not surprised that he's being weird, and that at least one other inmate has taken notice, so we know that much. Let's talk about how the other inmates are going to take to him in the prison. Let's bring back in Jessica Mishali and Sonny Slaughter, talk about this. Okay, I think he's going to be Mr. Popular in prison. Jessica, how do you think he's going to do here?
He's not going to be popular in prison at all. He is really the combination of the people who have the hardest time. Sometimes violent criminals might have a hard time depending on what they've been convicted of, but at least they have sort of some courage, confidence. He is not that. He doesn't look tough. He doesn't look scary. He's not anything that anybody would be intimidated by. And people, even in prison, are not going to appreciate what he's been convicted of. He's also going to probably spend a lot of time in solitary confinement. He may not even be able to actually make connections and make friends and things like that. It doesn't surprise me that he's weird. I would imagine that he suffers from very serious mental health issues. I would imagine that he has had some sort of extremely difficult life. I would imagine that things have happened to bring him to the point that he's at right now, and he's not going to be what the rest of us consider normal.
Jessica, thank you so much. Yeah,